Hi, welcome to Werks. Today is another one-day build in my 52 cards for 52 weeks challenge. Last week I drew the 8 of diamonds. It says shop door and window trim, so that's what we're going to be building today. Alright, so I have a bunch of this scrap maple flooring that was donated to me by a friend. I had this big chunky offcut of maple from a river table that I built over the summer, which I will have a video up of eventually. And the first thing I did was just cut that so I could glue it back together, and I want to make that into the windowsill. And I wanted to get that gluing so I could let that set up while I worked on some of the other pieces. I wanted to add a cool pattern to this trim, so I set this miter saw to a 45-degree angle and then set a depth setting so I wouldn't cut all the way through the piece of wood. And if you look at the backer piece, it has two kerfs in it. They're 3 inches apart, so I can cut the line at the saw and then move it over to the other kerf, and that'll give me even spacing across the entire piece. So inside of those kerfs, I inlaid them with little pieces of mahogany and walnut. So I just took some mahogany and walnut offcuts and trimmed them into kerf width pieces that I could rip down. And I just had to make a whole bunch of those. And once I got the fence set up, it was easy to just run a bunch of those through. With all my strips cut, I could glue them into place, and I just did a repeating pattern of mahogany and then walnut and mahogany and walnut just to create a striped effect. And once both those pieces were glued, I could clamp them together to just put a little pressure on them, even though they probably didn't even need to be clamped. It really amazes me how fast this wood glue sets up. This is Titebond 2, and it really sets up in about 10 or 15 minutes, so I probably let these sit in the clamps for 20 or 30 minutes, and then I just went with the Japanese saw and trimmed the ends off. And then I could come back with just a block plane to flush up the side, so I had one nice smooth side, and from there I could run it through the table saw to clean up the other side. I thought a diamond pattern would look cool for the top piece of trim, so what I did was I just set the saw to 45 degrees in the opposite direction and used that same guide piece to just cut all of the pieces, and that basically made a diamond pattern, and then I can glue in all the strips going the other direction, basically just doing the exact same thing that I did on the first pieces. And then I can cut out some additional strips of maple to encase the pieces with the design on them. So to keep this pattern centered, I'm finding the middle of one of these diamonds, and my overall length is 41 1/4. So I'm gonna just take this right on the center and then go 20 5/8. And then I'll do that for the other side too. That way my pattern stays centered. And for these top pieces with the diamond pattern, I wanted the trim to go all the way around them. So I mitered the ends and I put trim on all 4 sides. So I didn't start this project until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and around 1 o'clock in the morning I decided to call it quits, and I came back the next morning to finish it up. I did finish this project before 3, so I'm going to just say that still counts as a one-day build, but here I am taking the windowsill piece and cutting it down to size now. And I can just use a little offcut here to create a curve, and then I can use that to scribe a line. Just to add a nice little detail to the windowsill. And I can add some finish. Just used a rattle can with some spray lacquer here. I thought that was just the quickest thing to do. And it looks pretty good. This piece I had to trim down to fit around my tool cabinet, but once I got it in there, it looked like it was always there. Alright, so I got my door and window trim up. To be honest, I don't really know how I feel about it. It's not my favorite thing that I've ever made. I think the design might fit better in like a candy store or something like that. I didn't fully think it through because these are just one-day builds, so I kind of took an idea and ran with it. That being said, it's just a shop, and it is fun, so, you know, I'm going to keep it. Something about the way the top piece is, it just looks unfinished to me. I can't quite put my finger on it, so I think to put a little piece with a little cove bead or something up on top would look nice. I'm not going to do that right now. That being said, overall, I'm happy to have trim up. I think it looks better now with the trim than it did without it. I just don't know that this aesthetic really goes with the shop. A fun project nonetheless, so now I'm going to draw my card for next week. Alright. See what we're building next week. The 8 of Spades. Change gear organizer. Ooh. This is one I've actually wanted to do for a long time. I have a bunch of gears for my metal lathe that are just kind of in a stack, and now I can make something that they can all nest in, and I'll be able to readily access them that way. So that's all for this week. Thanks for watching, and I hope you like and subscribe if you'd like to see the rest of the builds. We still have 50 to go, and there will be a new video up for this change gear organizer next week. Thanks for watching.